These are 6 stupid things I did to get my grip stronger. Bromley, you say, you're not an arm wrestler and you talk massive amounts of trash on grip sports. I'm trying to get a pair of jacked meat mittens. Why the hell would I listen to you? Well, that's a very good question. I did spend the better part of 2 decades hanging out with people who had some of the strongest hands in the world, and I've picked up a few things. And given this strongman has a specific grip dynamic that I had to overcome over the years, I've figured a few things out. And on top of that, I trained just an absolute shit ton of people in person for long periods of time over the last 2 decades, and I've picked up some things that work, and they're pretty easy and they're kind of fun, and they don't make people like run for the hills. Like I'm gonna eat up somebody's session having them just do like hub pinches for 20 minutes. But I also know you guys and know that you don't care about the averages over a lot of people that are most likely to work for you. You want to know the least important thing, which is what I did specifically. So I'm going to go over that today and tell you when it might benefit you. I'm not in danger of closing the number 4 or the number 3, maybe not even the 2.5 anytime soon. But in my time, I did do some grippy things that I'm kind of proud of, and it was a direct result of specific training tactics. So let's get into it. The first thing up is arm work. Now, this type of roundabout stuff that's not directly specific to grip doesn't work so well if you are ahead of the curve. If you spent the last so many years training your arms vigorously, if you're a guy that doesn't slack on bicep day, or if you're a guy that's trying to actually hang in a grip contest, this is not the most direct way to see grip gains. But given that so many lifters look for reasons to skip arm work, I am more than justified in leading with this one, putting it at the top of the list, because not only will doing arm work cure your do you even lift problem, which I still suffer from to this day, it'll bring up your lifts, and it is going to get your hands and forearms thicker, stronger, more able to hold on when holding on is a priority. And Tank just farted. Jesus Christ. I know I was going to regret letting you guys in here. Can you guys go ahead and comment if Tank looks dead? If he looks like he has Hathor face, it's because he got bit on the lip by an Arizona critter. This guy is eating live wasps, and he's sucked all the jelly out from an entire cooler full of freezer packets. So I don't really think this is going to take him down, but I figure I'd keep him close just in case. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, grip strength, working your arms. There isn't a time I came away from like a basic like volume hypertrophy introductory block. Usually like a few months out from a meet, I would do a lot of dedicated arm work and then phase it out as I got closer to my peak. My arms would always grow, those numbers would go up, and the rest of my pressing and pulling and so on would also go up. But during all of those phases, I also noticed that my wrists were a bit thicker and my hands felt just a lot stronger. Now, there are 2 things that I would tell you to focus on if you are going to use this as a way to get your hands stronger. One, focus on movements that really emphasize the wrist having to brace when the forearm is perpendicular. So heavy barbell, curls, extensions, dumbbells as well. That is going to provide the most bang for your buck when it comes to hitting those muscles. Thing number 2 is the squeeze. Crush the bar, crush it as hard as you can. When you think you're done crushing, you absolutely are not done crushing. This kind of reminds me of compensatory acceleration, where you try to move the bar as fast as possible, because for sets of 8, 10, 12, you're used to coasting because it's more efficient. And you find that when you go as hard as possible on every rep, you gas out a lot quicker. This is similar to that. If you're keeping absolute maximum tension, you're going to crap out sooner, but that's okay. Your arms aren't going to be worse for it, and your forearms and your hands will absolutely be better for it. Because arm work is less grip and forearm specific, it's really important to get into the weeds here. Fatigue needs to be high to get as much transfer as possible. Again, not worse for your arms, better for your lower arm. In my opinion, the best protocol is for adding meat on your arm while also torching your hands and forearms. Free weights, like I said, heavy barbell and dumbbell stuff. And honestly, if you're going aggro with like cheat curls or those like Pat Casey style cheating skull crushers where you go into like a pullover first, that's where load and speed and effort are going to be highest, and that's where the wrist, forearm, hands are going to have to do the absolute most. Second, anything with constant tension, you don't have to do this, and I can feel the broccoli heads getting really anxious over not going through a full range of motion. I'm not telling you to do short little bullshit partials, but keeping tension on the muscle is going to keep fatigue higher. I don't care what you say. Metabolic fatigue, good reason to think it does contribute to some amount of size and strength. We know it contributes to capacity, which is a big feature of your grip, but really just clipping off reps while you're not locking out, you're not going all the way down, blood gets trapped. It's like blowing air into a bicycle tire. It can't get out. And by the end of it, like you can't type on your phone because your thumbs and fingers don't work. Now, as far as the easy tweaks that are going to be better for your grip, won't take away from the main purpose of things like curls and extensions, anything with a thicker, squishier handle is going to be a benefit to your grip. If you're just squeezing the holy hell out of the bar from start to finish with a normal bar, it's going to be better. But if you use a fat grips, if you use an axle, oven mitts, that is an old school, like the guy that comes in and does that, everybody thinks is a lunatic, like some homeless dude came off the street, left his shopping cart outside. He's walking in tattered clothes. He's got oven mitts on and he's doing curls. And then you look and you're like, Jesus Christ, that guy has 18-inch forearms. That is an old school hood type trick. If you don't want the oven mitts, I mean, I would own it. I'd get the flowery ones, the ones with hummingbirds that my mom has, and go in just unapologetic. But you can bring in beach towels, anything to wrap around the handle to make it squishier. Again, your arms won't be worse for it. Hands and forearms will be a lot better. Now, the last tweak you can make, anything with a twisting motion is going to add something. I wouldn't have all of your exercises do this, but if you do something like a Zotman curl, the supination and pronation is a bit more lower arm specific, so you're going to get a bit more doing that. And Mike O'Hearn has something similar with tricep extensions where he takes dumbbells and he lets them stretch back this way, turns and brings it back up. That's a neat exercise for the triceps. It really is. But again, any twisting motion is going to add a little bit something there. So experiment. See what you like, apply some effort. Before long, those pea shooters are gonna look like cannons. This video is brought to you by the shitty comment of the day. Today's shitty comment comes from Ivan500. Shout out to Alex for not looking like he lifts after a decade of lifting. There's some things that everybody wants other people to desperately believe, and one is that they are eventually going to become impervious to things like, do you even lift accusations? And that's just not the case. This was a really underrated jab because it was short, it was brief, it was like a haiku, and it was just straight to the point. I got whiplash because I was like, oh, hey, here's a nice comment. Oh, wait, you just cut straight into my soft heart. And after I stopped staring at the desk for 5 minutes, thinking about my recent life choices that brought me to this point in time, I got into argument mode because it got me thinking about what it is to even look like you lift. In this climate, it's not actually about getting muscle mass. In fact, many people seem to think that isn't the point of any of this. There are people active on the internet today that will watch Dallas Buyers Club and say, thank you, Hollywood, for finally giving us realistic representation of a natty intermediate lifter. The only rules for looking like you lift are having a cap on your shoulders, doesn't matter if it's the actual clavicle bone, having visible abdominals, which chemotherapy patients can get quite easily, and by just getting really big arms. Yes, there are 500-pound truckers that can fat themselves into people mistaking them for Cleve Dean. Now, of course, it would be cool if I looked like I lifted, but that would mean having a dedicated arm day or getting down to a reasonable body fat. And at this point in time, for me, the juice just isn't worth the squeeze. But I don't want to dismiss what it is to get shredded. I look at Alpha Destiny all the time and say, gee, I wish I could pull off the barbell apparel muscle tanks the way he does, but I can't because my hairy nipples show through. And it's not the way of an athlete where you're doing work and some skin's going to show. It's more like people across the gym are like, why does that guy's nipple look like the hairless rats they feed to snakes? Now, thankfully for me, Barbell Apparel does have chubby approved attire. I wear their Phantom tanks all the time. They have graphic tees that fit very comfortably. Get you a Big Dreams Bad Jeans tee. In fact, I tried to stay with the monster theme. We had the Kong tee, we had the Godzilla, so I went with the wolf. Went a little too hard probably. Slipknot feel here, but you know what? I have no regrets. It reminds me of like a WWE shirt that I would have worn in 1997. They got athletic fit dress shirts, they got chinos, they got all types of shorts. They even have wrist wraps and straps now. Hats, fanny packs, anything you name it. And of course, legendary stretchy jeans that are rugged denim through and through. But my ass, which takes up 90% of my lower body, fits so comfortably. I can bend over, I can do a workout with no plumber's crack. It is a sight to behold. I would go to sleep in these things if my wife allowed me. Just kidding, I don't need to check in with my wife.
What?
Nothing. And the thing I like is kind of shallow. I even like the way that their stuff comes packaged. It says that there's something in here. It feels like Christmas every time they send me a package that I'm opening up something. What am I going to find here? Is it going to be some Maverick shorts? Is it going to be another fanny pack? Is it going to be my favorite thing, which squares off my round ass head, which is their long line of caps? One day I'll look like I lift without a shirt on, but until then, I'm going to let Barbell Apparel do the heavy lifting for me. Next up are long holds. I've talked about this before. Most strongman grip stuff revolves around farmer's walks. And everybody loves loading up farmers for max like 20-foot runs or doing a bunch of light bullshit sprints. You get some newbie gains pretty quick from that, but eternally pushing into heavier and heavier farmers, your grip's gonna run into a brick wall pretty soon. That's what I experienced on every prep for a farmer's walk or a frame carry that was heavy. Is heavier runs didn't do as much. The lighter ones did a lot. Also, going heavy over and over, really good way to keep your legs, hips, back, your shoulders and neck feeling like absolute dog shit for your next deadlift session. It's like the worst of all worlds. Now, farmers are one of my best events. One of my proudest events was when I went heads up against Larry Wheels, the first strongman event he ever did at his first contest. I went in as a heavyweight, 315 in each hand, sprint down, drop, sprint back. I took him out. Now, my grip is absolutely not stronger than Larry Wheels' grip is, and that victory really came down to a lot of precise strategy, timing, technique I picked up over the years. So it's a culmination of all things. But to get my grip strong enough to not just hang with him, but to take first in that event with a pretty heavy farmer walk handle to be able to move quick, that took a little bit of work. And this is what worked for me. One of the best kept secrets for getting a farmer's walk up is just to go well beyond the duration that you're ever going to go in a contest. Go long, go far, and really push it until you're cracking your teeth, trying to hold on as the weight slips into your fingers for those last few seconds, those last couple of feet. The reason people don't do this isn't because they really don't know to do it. It's because it's super uncomfortable. Even grip work where you're just holding dumbbells while standing in place, it's monotonous. It's just not fun, but it's one of the most productive things you can do. And it has the benefit of not eating into the rest of your training. So I am a fan. Now, you don't necessarily need handles for this. You actually don't really need to walk, but I like walking because it just makes it go by faster, and using distance as a goal to try to beat, I find that to be more productive than just using time on a stopwatch, although it doesn't matter. If you have a stretch of turf, you have a driveway, go 100 down, go 100 back, clock several hundred feet. You can do figure eights in your living room if you want to. You can march in place. It doesn't matter. Just go for time. Now, because the time threshold is important, I'd go for 45 seconds minimum, whatever that distance is, and aim to push that to 90 seconds with similar weight before you consider really adding weight, trying to improve on that. Effort's still king here, obviously, but if you're diligent, you will be absolutely surprised at what this does for your lower arm. Rope climbs are a staple of Mark Felix. He has some of the strongest paws to ever grace the World's Strongest Man stage. Now, as far as me, I'm not what you would call calisthenically inclined. I'm not attracted to anything that resembles CrossFit. Requires me getting my body weight very high above the ground. Not really a good time as far as I'm concerned, but my hand was forced because I was prepping for the Arnold and they announced that they were going to have an old school World's Strongest Man style vertical hoist. Rope going up at an angle towards a single pulley that would pull something vertically. Now what that means is as you pull, once you let go, the weight falls. So you have to pull, regrip. And because I didn't want to put the equipment in the gym at risk or the health of other members for that matter, instead of trying to rig something up, I decided to just do a bodyweight rope climb. Now in the beginning it sucked. My fingers would burn from the rope and I could only do a couple and I'd have to take long rest periods, but steadily it got better to the point where at 260 pounds, I could knock off a lot of reps without really taking a break or descending. Now, why don't I climb all the way to the top? Mark Felix climbs all the way to the top. That's what the bell at the top is for. Because I fell from a rope in 3rd grade in gym class and I'm still not the same. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's what knocked my face sideways. Now, this is super easy to do if you have a rope available in your gym, which many gyms do. You can do it as a pre-fatigue warm-up just before you get into your heavier stuff. You can do it while you're taking a rest in between like squats or deads. It's not really that taxing. You can do it on GPP day or as part of a circuit. Don't overthink it, just do it. And if you can't climb, just practice doing pulls with both hands until you can make that reach without risking eating shit, and it'll probably come faster than you think. Friction maintenance is huge here. Make sure you are thoroughly chalked because if you do have any moisture on your hands, you will slide down that rope and it ain't gonna feel good. Now, how did this carry over to the actual event? Unfortunately, I didn't make it to day 2 of the Arnold, but they ended up scrapping this event for an axle clean and press anyway, so it didn't matter. But I got this one in my back pocket. Next up are kettlebell wrist curls. Everybody does this like once when they are brand new, when they just took their first pass through Arnold's bodybuilding encyclopedia and they're gonna do every exercise super loyally. And then you realize that they're kind of stupid and uninspiring and they're really awkward. Now, if you were one of the 5 people that saw my physics of lifting video, you know all about leverage and that having the weight further away from the joint makes those muscles work harder. So instead of having that weird floppy nonsense in a wrist curl where the bar gets closer and just kind of flops over your wrist joint, Instead, you can use a kettlebell, which will get further away from you as you curl up. Just like bands and chains, it's a type of accommodating resistance. This is the same principle behind cam machines, same principle behind things like lever curl devices you might have seen. And it's about time, because there's a run of kettlebells like every gym's most overhyped piece of equipment that nobody uses. So now it gets to actually earn its place in the real estate that it's taking up, where you could put another like reverse hyper or something. So what you want to do, make sure your hands are super dry, super tacky, because they need to be able to hold the kettlebell at that horizontal position without the bell falling down. You're just gonna grab a super light one, seriously, like a 10-pound kettlebell. I know it's gonna look ridiculous, but trust me here, and you're gonna go to work. Now, there's a couple different positions I like to rotate through in no particular order, because these muscles aren't gonna be used to that type of variety. So just throwing in a couple of different angles, it's gonna make a big difference. And it does break up the monotony quite a bit, which I do like. If you're just standing with your arms by your side and you curl up, the kettlebell's now out in front. So the top part of the wrist curl or the wrist extension is gonna be the hardest part. Now, if you rest your forearms on your knees, it's gonna be more like a preacher curl, because the weight's going to be out in front through most of the movement. So it's a very smooth strength profile, which is very nice. It's comparably difficult through the whole thing. And then this is a hidden one. I was really proud of this. If you have your forearm vertical and you let the weight break back or let the weight break forward, now you are the most disadvantaged at the stretch, which you hypertrophy broccoli heads are gonna absolutely love, so you can go nuts on that one. I expect a thank you letter when Milo Wolf steals it. Now this protocol, it takes like 5 minutes. I'm not even kidding. Don't overthink it. Just curl until you can't anymore. If you start with an extension, go immediately into a flexion, rest a couple minutes, and then go again with one of the other variations. Just do 2, maybe 3 rounds, and progress very slowly, very evenly. With this one, consistency is more important than the actual progression. Make it a habit, and you're gonna be getting contacted to be the mascot for your local canned spinach company. Axle cleans and snatches is another hidden strongman one. A lot of strongmen don't even do this. I got this tip from a strongman OG way back on the Morunde Muscle Forum. I wanna say it was middleweight pro Justin Blake, if memory serves, which it rarely does. Now back then, axle stuff was just a lot more common than log stuff was. I mean, anybody could go to Home Depot, get a piece of galvanized pipe for like 20 bucks and rig up their own axle that was reasonably effective. To get a log, you had to contact Alan Beninga on his MySpace and get him to hand make you one and then ship it from Kentucky. It was a better time to be a strongman. And for some reason, strapless axle deads were really in vogue. And it took some time for promoters to realize that having the strongest, geared up, most muscle-bound men in the world trying to monkey grip 800 pounds without grip support wasn't great for keeping the athletes in one piece. Biceps started flying off like Roman candles on the 4th of July. It was a mess, so they phased it out. Now, where most people would just do double overhand deadlifts, the tip to do cleans and snatches really was a game changer for a couple of reasons. When I started doing this, I noticed a few things. One, I actually paid attention to how my grip was set at the start and how dry and tacky it was. I know that sounds like it's obvious, but it took me a long time to get that. I messed up a bunch of events because my hands weren't quite as dry as they could be, or I wasn't contemplating on exactly how I was gripping the bar. And many of you think you have grip problems, and really you're just letting your hands get too sweaty and you're not positioning them with intent. So that helped out a lot. Thing number 2, a lot more springiness through my lower half. I'm not very athletic. It took me a long time before I started focusing on those things, specifically for strongman. And after doing a lot of cleans and snatches on an axle with lighter weight, I just got a lot more pop out of my hips. Just ask your mom. And then of course, thing number 3, as I was able to hoist more weight explosively, my hands got thicker and stronger, and something like an axle deadlift was just easy. Now, all of this type of training culminated with one of my favorite performances looking back, a 270-pound axle clean and press for reps, 8 in a minute. Yes, I continentaled them all, but I kept it double overhand so I didn't have to waste time throwing my hand over or risk my bicep pulling with a mixed grip up to my hips or to my belt. This was the most efficient method, and it took a pretty strong grip to be able to pull this off, and it was a direct byproduct of this type of work. Now, my advice for this, do not do these heavy. These are not a main lift for the day. If the bar is slowing down, you're doing that really slow, like muscle clean or snatch, you're screwing up. You want to treat it like skill work. For a clean or a snatch, you'll be able to clock more reps. You'll get more carryover to the other stuff. You can throw it in quickly as a warm-up so it doesn't take up your whole training session. You'll still be fresh for the other stuff. When you get into really slow, ugly cleans, it just teaches bad habits. And in my opinion, it's not as good of a stimulus, not as predictable for getting your grip stronger. It's just gonna frustrate you. A good ballpark is to keep the reps fast, so you're keeping that pop on the second pull. 3 to 5 reps is a good range to work in, 5 sets or more, working up, working back down. Don't be a stickler for exactly what the weight is. Every now and then, put a minute on the clock, take the weight you started with, and just see how many you can do in a minute as a good little conditioning test. PRs come very quickly here, and it makes the whole thing a lot more fun. Now, lastly, plate gripping. I heard this one offhand from Nick Best's training crew. He was doing work with Foster Parnell, who back in the day was a pretty gnarly heavyweight contender. I don't know if he's still around, but he was like well over 400 log, 800 deadlift, real strong dude. And when they would train, apparently they would finish workouts by finger tipping the 100-pound plates for time. And it was cool because it was kind of competitive. Now, in my old training crew, we used to do head-to-head farmer holds for time at the end of the workout. And those become an entirely different type of suck when it's actually competitive, because you don't give up when it's uncomfortable. You give up when your spine is contorting and your vision is going dark and you got blood vessels popping out of the side of your skull. So the competitive aspect of holds is really cool, but the fact of the fingertip plate type hold, most of you are used to holding onto a weight in a closed fist. That supportive / crushing strength that's involved in holding a barbell or a dumbbell. Adding in the variety of some type of fingertip hold or a pinch, that variety is nasty for getting really quick growth. So I took this one on in prep for one of the heavier carries I've ever done. It was a 750 frame, no straps, no knurling on the handle. And I was getting like 10, 15 feet on it. I wasn't sure I was gonna be able to finish the entire course. I started doing this at the end of every upper body day. It was super quick, took just a few minutes. And I would just go as long as I could for 2, maybe 3 rounds. And then I would just try to go longer every time I came in. Now, if the hundos are too much to handle, you can try this other thing I did around the same time where I was doing standard plate pinching. So instead of this, it's an actual pinch type motion. You have plates faced together, so you got the smooth on the outside. Again, hands chalk, completely dry. And with both hands, you're squeezing, picking, holding for a second, letting it back down. Now you can load these kind of easily by feeding a loading pin through the middle, clamping at the end. You can add plates on the outside. Be aware of what direction you're adding the plates in. I want to say if the weights are in front of your hands, it pulls the weight down into your fingertips, makes it a bit easier. So be careful when counting PRs because you game the system with how you load the weight. But either way, really good, easy, predictable way to add. And with these, I generally worked up to a few heavy picks. There is no reason on God's green earth to miss attempts. You're looking for stimulus here, not to arbitrarily say you broke something off the ground 1/4 of an inch. Just something that's heavy, hold it for a second, let it down, drop the weight 20%, do a hold for time. Easy effing peasy. Now again, pinch gripping, not hyper specific to that supportive or crushing type closed fist strength. But most of you guys, almost all of you guys are not here because you're trying to hyper specialize on your grip. Again, these are all things that you can include passively without thinking about it too much. It's not going to derail your training or give you anxiety because you have one more thing to focus on. And not only will your grip get stronger, you can aspire to get one of those, dancing lady tattoos on your forearm. Really wow the chicas at last call at the bar. So that's all I got for today, guys. Let me know what you think. Have you tried these? Have they worked for you? What else do you recommend to the people in the comments? Say something incendiary. It's a bright, beautiful day in Arizona, and I feel like fighting with somebody in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Barbell Apparel, Base Strength back there behind my metal Predator, BaseStrength.com. You guys know the drill. I'm out.